What do you think when you hear the words Merton Centre for Independent Living? Is it our advice and advocacy services? Is it our activism and our campaigning? Or is it our parties and our events? Yes, it's probably all of those and much more, which is all part of our story. And our story starts back in 2008. We needed a grassroots organisation run and controlled by deaf and disabled people in Merton. It was important because we needed something to fight the discrimination that we were experiencing, particularly around independent living, and we knew that our voice could be louder if we came together. And we wanted inclusion. We want to participate in our local communities, working together with disabled and non-disabled people on equal terms. What we really wanted was change.
Around that time, there were agencies representing disabled people. And when you look at these organizations, they had very, very few disabled people in them. What Merton CIL was advocating from its inception was this whole issue of being in control.
We knew as disabled people that we had to have a voice. We had to establish ourselves as a user-led organisation. Centres for Independent Living were countrywide, and we needed to join that network.
It just seemed that we were fighting, an uphill battle, because the council at that time were not interested in giving funds, or developing a centre for independent living. But we were still there saying, no, we need a centre for independent living, And the more you try and control what you want us to do, the more it proves to us that we need a centre for independent living so that disabled people can have a strong voice.
I think I spent pretty much the whole of the first year with my jaw on the floor, really, because I was so shocked at what I was learning and what I was seeing and what people were experiencing. And I really felt that it was a civil rights issue. And I just remember that very first case. This individual was stuck at home. They weren't able to leave the house on their own, and they weren't even able really to move around their own home independently. He was in a terrible emotional state due to the pressures of withdrawal of care. And in the end, his friend went and helped him get his care reinstated by contacting the Ombudsman. But that first case really set the tone for a lot of the cases we've had since, and a lot of the cases that we're seeing currently as well.
We knew that to make change happen, we needed to be fearless and have a clear message.
I remember kicking the football into the council house and saying, you've scored an own goal with this one. I wanted to make the point that although many disabled people, can't go out of their houses, and although many people can't go on marches or kind of stand outside the council house or get to council surgeries, that we wouldn't be ignored, and that we would make a stand, and that we couldn't be silenced.
Quite often when one thinks about organisations that challenge, it can be a one-sided thing. You may be pointing the finger a lot at others. MCIL has pointed the finger where things aren't being done, but has also been quite happy to put themselves in the position of being part of that solution. People get very comfortable and we tinker around the edges with things and then say we're making a big difference. MCIL doesn't allow for tinkering. It demands change, and that has to be a benefit for all of us.
Through organisations becoming worried about repercussions from councils if they're speaking out against them, what we've seen is DDPOs kind of pulling back a little bit on that campaigning. But MCIL never steps back from that. It never says, this is all we can accept for disabled people in the current climate. It pushes for what's right.
We knew that to make change happen, we had to build a network and use different people's strengths and their experiences.
MCIL uses different strengths of people to widen their understanding of disability. If you want to know about these issues, who better to tell you about them? The people who have actually lived with them. I think in society generally, those experiences aren't valued as much, but MCIL can see value in them.
One of my favourite bits is when we started My Voice Matters. It's an excuse to invite all of our members and service users to get together and have a chat, and that's the forum that we use to set our strategy, to look at some of those big issues, and we have had some great meetings.
It's a safe place for us to come and talk and compare experiences. At the end of the day, we're all individuals and we all have a voice, and a lot of people aren't given that voice purely because other people think they know what's best for them. But enabling them to have a voice is something that's very important to me, because I quite often felt that I didn't have a voice.
It's about attitude, it's about knowledge, it's about being sensitive, and it's about consulting with people.
I've been able to bring my personal experience. I can't read or write, so I've been able to say things like pictures are better than words.
Before I got involved with Merton CIL, I'd be the little mouse in the corner not saying a word, and then having been sort of pushed by those powers in Merton CIL to get onto boards, to get into meetings and actually find my voice and not be afraid. As each time I go to these meetings and speak, I become more confident and realise that I have a right to my views, whether people agree with them or not.
Every disabled person who makes contact with Merton CIL is in some way empowered through that contact process. Because when people actually see a problem as collective rather than individual, it empowers them immensely.
We knew that to make change happen, we had to reach out and we had to make it real.
Partnership work has helped because it's diffused some of the myths that were starting to become generated, that it was maybe a group that was banging all the time. It actually showed that it's actually about the people in it. It wasn't doctored, it wasn't altered, there was no assumptions made, it was the words of those that had taken part. And I think it was refreshing because it's one of the first times I felt that there's been a win.
When Amnesty was having its biggest decision-making gathering, the annual general meeting of the organization, we reached out to MCIL, and one of the persons that MCIL recommended actually ended up speaking to the global decision-making body of Amnesty, and some of the things that she recommended were adopted, and now for the first time the organization is developing a global policy to work on people with disabilities.
We know to make change happen, we need to keep going, and we will, but we know we've got a long road to go.
I think it's amazing that Merton CIL has grown in the way it has over the last 10 years, especially when you put that in the context of what's happened to many other organisations around the country. In the next 10 years, I think our target will really need to be to continue to have an independent source of income, so that we can continue to challenge and participate in the national debate.
I think it's really important to change the narrative. At the moment, all you see is a financial discussion. It's about how much disabled people cost. And I think we just have to keep saying you're asking the wrong question. You should be asking, how do we invest in disabled people's lives? How do we support people to be independent?
We need to work more with the local authorities and the local housing units, the local housing teams, and the local social care teams, because there are so many people falling through the net that need to get that help and support.
We need to be here to help and support disabled people, and we'll fight for that. We have a voice, we've found our voice, and we ain't going to lose it.